Today is a special episode of Music and Meaning, what I'm calling Four on the Floor, where I invite three music industry guests to join me. And together, the four of us will look back on some of the most important music news of February 2024. So please welcome legendary artist, manager, and A&R development guru, Tracy Gershon. Tracy, welcome. Also on the floor is the amazing recording artist and the host of Apple Music's Color Me Country, Rissi Palmer. Welcome, Rissi.
Thank you.
And last but never least, the Grammy Award-winning producer who launched the artist Her into the stratosphere. I give you the hugely talented Swagg R'Celious. Welcome, everyone. I just want to thank all of you for joining me this special episode of Music and Meaning. Let's get started. We've got a lot of news to cover. I'm just going to throw out the Grammys first because that's February 4th, Sunday. Rissi, what were your fave moments?
I think this was the moment heard around the world. Tracy Chapman. Oh my God. It was electric. She was the first Black woman that I'd ever seen with a guitar ever when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
I know that there have been others, but she was the first for me, and that was a really foundational representation moment for me, and part of the reason why I wanted to play guitar. And she is what unbothered looked like. If you look at it up in the dictionary, clear skin, mind your business, drink your water, mind your edges, that is Tracy Chapman. So it was, and I think too, she did it without sequins. She did it without a smoke machine. She did it with just her voice, a guitar, and an incredible song. So I can't think of a better way to start the show.
It was really a goosebumps moment. It was definitely a highlight, and what a coup for the Grammys to get her, as far as, 'cause she's just not wanted to do anything. And I love that she was with Luke Combs, and he honestly looked, he was just so in awe of it and respectful.
Yeah.
I love the way he looked at her the whole time. I loved it.
We don't get to see that we don't get to see that vulnerability, with people. We're also professional, everybody's got, and just the fact that he was just so, overwhelmed that he got to be there with her. And that was really beautiful.
I'll tell you, the Joni Mitchell thing was, I full disclosure, I'm prejudiced because I work with the Sister Strings, but first time for her to be on the Grammys, number one, and I love that they honored somebody like that. What she's overcome, I think, and Brandi Carlile said in her speech, she really, a few years ago, she wasn't even talking.
I just want to give credit, to Brandi. I've never seen another artist invest themselves so much in making sure that a legacy artist isn't just somebody who's an icon, but somebody that's truly valued, and that the value of their music is what is celebrated. And that was just so beautiful. Swagg, how about you? Top moments for you.
In addition to those important and top moments, Victoria Monet winning Best Artist of the Year was really cool. Just knowing her story, and I don't know her personally, but being familiar with a lot of the producers who worked on the project, D-Mile, and
I was going to say your buddy D-Mile was on there.
Yeah, and just knowing the hard work and dedication that really went into not only her project, but she's been behind the scenes writing for years, and seeing other people star shine, and for her to get that moment was really cool for me.
And her speech, I loved her speech.
Again, super vulnerable, no posturing. Love it. Past year was the year of that we all finally took notice of AI, and I kind of wonder if isn't the thing that we're all going to be hungering for over the next couple of decades. It's just that any authentic moment, we're just going to be drooling. Where anybody is just truly human, will just be like, that's it, that's the thing we love.
I also thought I thought the in memoriam was really special this year too. They didn't just run through a bunch of names, fast. They kind of really gave some moments because unfortunately we're losing so many people as, years go by. Being involved with the Grammys, I'd heard it was going to be an 18-minute segment, and that's really long to do, but they said they wanted to make it a performance and really give respect to those who had passed on, and I think they accomplished it.
Yeah, it was super tasteful. Like watching it at home, um it was reverent. Because sometimes I don't feel like it is. Like in watching the Grammys in the past, like it's just like, what? That was all you had to say about what's this? Like what? But like this felt reverent. It felt, and I'm also a Sounds of Blackness fan, so like give me some Ann Nesby and I'm good. But it was just like it was Fantasia. It was Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. It was it was great. Like I loved it. I thought it was really cool.
Okay, anything cringy? Anybody willing to go on the record for any cringy moments?
Now, I mean, her fans didn't care because her fans are watching to see her, but I just think industry was going, that was it. Jay-Z, I'm just going to go there. I felt like both his daughter and his wife were a little bit like, oh, don't say these things. What's great about the Grammys is they knew that he probably was going to say, they wanted to give him the award. They knew full well that he may go rogue and may say negative things, and they're okay because the Grammys right now are trying to improve and owning some of the things, and the Grammys didn't have to do that. It's an award kind of made a new award, and they're just trying to do the best they can. Sometimes I just, there were some things I thought that he said that were right on, and some it's like, hey, you're standing up getting an award. Like the Grammys can't be that bad. You're on stage getting that award. So there I went there. Sorry.
I just want to throw in with the Jay-Z thing. The thing that I have been watching over the last couple of weeks, glad you said the Taylor Swift thing, because it read so weird at home. So I can't even imagine how that felt like in the room. But with Jay-Z, I think it is problematic that, now mind you, this is not me speaking to Taylor's gifts or her talents or any of that stuff. The only problem that I had with that particular moment was it's not just a Beyonce issue. Like there's a lot of albums that should be considered. There's a lot of artists that should be considered for some of these things, and they don't get that. And unfortunately, because the conversation is about two iconic, I mean, I know we throw the word iconic around real easy right now, but like two highest, like operating at their highest level artists are the face of this particular issue that definitely does deserve conversation and thought and pondering, because these two people take up all the oxygen in the room when they come in it. It's only a conversation about Taylor and Beyonce, unfortunately. And it's not a equity conversation. It's not a racial conversation. It's not a sexist conversation. Like it's only a Taylor and Beyonce conversation. And like there were so many good pieces that I saw that were ruined by the fact that we're only talking about like it's two fandoms fighting with each other, the Swifties and the Beehive. And it's not like, let's sit down and figure out why this is working this way.
Yeah, and I have to add to that, this is voting membership. And one of the problems with the Grammys and what I think is great now is that they're being very intentional about bringing a more diverse membership, because it's the diversity that will get it right. And for so long, it was so one-sided. There was no gender, no, people, as many people of color. It was. And so, and I, full disclosure, I co-chair the National Membership Committee. So it's very intentional. We've got to get the membership right in order to get those awards right. That's it, because it's not fan voted.
And to that point, first, the most cringe moment is her totally ignoring Celine Dion. I thought that was
not Celine Dion, right?
let me just get that off my chest. Phew. But I think to the point in membership, and I think Jay-Z was because I have friends who are younger and more involved in the nuance of Black music culture, and they feel right. And I think he was speaking to them and appealing to them, like get involved in one sense, and also trying to critique the process. I think the thing for me was I don't know if he's 100% clear what the process is now, and I think he spoke from through the prisms of an older system, which I respect and understand. And I think even though the membership there is more diversity, I think culturally there's not enough diversity, right? So Jay-Z was trying to speak to that critique, and at the same time saying, this may be how you feel, but we can't change anything if we don't show up.
The Grammys have been terrible at explaining all this. And so people don't understand how the voting happens and, the difference between this and a People's Choice Award or an American Music Award and that sort of thing. And so, yeah.
Thank you. That's so good. Tracy, what about talking to Harvey about, some point between now and the next Grammys that we do just a week of, everybody's social media posting, just telling people, hey, here's what it really is. And this is how people get voted and all of that.
It's a big topic of conversation. It's so different now. And they were going to I think they did some, maybe before COVID, town hall meetings. They went into each chapter and said, this is what it is. I always felt like everything was behind a curtain. Everything was secretive. And that was, and I, being a board member, said, this is our fault. We make it that way when it's not. So let's take the curtains away. There's a real intentional movement to say we're transparent. This is how it happens. This is how it's voted on. So yes, you're right on.
Swagg, Tracy, Rissi, thank you for your input on this important subject. And now on to the next important subject, the Super Bowl. I think you know where I'm going next. And Rissi, I want to hear from you first. Did Usher come back? Did he come home?
Okay, Usher brought all of Atlanta.
He did. He brought everyone in Atlanta with him.
I also lived in Atlanta during the Lil Jon and that time. So that was the club. That was Rissi in the club. My only critique, I thought Alicia Keys looked great. I don't understand why she was there. I don't know. I wish that instead of doing that song, I wish that they had done longer versions of the other songs. I get that that's hard to do, especially when you have as many hits as he has. I just wish that they had been a little bit longer. That's all.
I agree. I mean, it was taking me some of them were so short that I felt like, wait, I haven't quite figured out which song this is yet. And then it was on to the next one. Swagg, production-wise, what'd you think?
I personally enjoyed it. I kind of watched it just as a spectator and a fan of Usher and somebody who's been from the South. I think he did what he had to do. To be honest, I don't know what more he could have done production-wise. Fly from the sky, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, when he threw down with the roller skates, that put
the roller skates. That's what got me.
I mean, and he was singing like he was going in.
He was singing. Yes,
he was singing. He was like the mic was on for sure.
The mic was on.
That's what everybody in our room, we had about 20 people that were watching it. And so all of there were maybe 3 or 4 record producers in the room, and everybody kept turning to us going, is he really singing? Is she really singing? Is she really playing? And so on and so forth. Swagg, you think Gabby was miming her solo though, right?
She played it.
Oh, okay. He's going to throw down.
I thought so. I thought it looked like she was playing it.
She played it. Yeah, she was cordless. That was my exciting moment. About his performance and having to sit on that information for months.
Oh, you knew.
So, how many of you have listened to the new Usher music that dropped a few days before?
I did. I thought there were some good songs on it. My standard for him is so high as a fan. I think I expected something else as a fan. There are a lot of good records on there, but I was hoping for a little bit more.
I think I should have expected it to be kind of straight down the middle, that's the way I would describe it. Like I wanted it to be experiment a little bit more, but I thought the beats were pretty just not really risking a lot, I guess is what I would say. Whereas I will say this, Beyonce's two new songs, oh my gosh.
I love 16 Carriages.
Can we talk about 16 Carriages for a minute? Who wants to go first? I will say this, for anyone who's listening here, when you listen to Texas Hold'em, which is sort of, I guess, the emphasis single right now, make sure you listen all the way to the end, because you may think you have it figured out, and then the last, 45 seconds of it is just some brilliant, brilliant stuff. And then 16 Carriages, to me, that's some serious innovation, I think.
What I loved about it was I thought the writing was really cool, but also I had this nostalgia of old Beyonce also. Just her approach to the record. It's a really cool blending of worlds, a really bold statement done well.
Don't you love also having the vocals so present? There's no track that's fighting. I mean, she's really forward in it, and I'm super impressed.
The thing that I thought was cool about that record is it's also a work song. 16 Carriages has it's a work song in addition to having country instrumentation on it. So on my show, we have this conversation a lot about what it's going to take, particularly for a Black woman, to make a major impact on country music. Not just be around, but to actually make a major impact. And not only that, to impact with Black people. Because I think that's the part that's been missing for so many artists is you can't really count Darius, because Darius, as hard as he works, was Hootie. And everybody knew who Hootie and the Blowfish was. And so the only case studies that you really have are Charlie Pride and Kane Brown and, Jimmy Allen. And so, and not really a Black woman for a very long time, because the highest charting Black woman was in the 20s, and that was in 1968. And there have only been, I'm talking to Jada Watt. I was talking to Jada because I wanted to make sure I had my numbers right. There have only been 7 of us that have ever charted on Billboard. One of my arguments has always been that I think the thing that has been missing is that all of us have tried to make music that fits in, as opposed to making music that, number one, is authentic to us and our experiences. And that's not to say that the Black experience is a monolith, because it absolutely is not.
No.
But there are certain things that speak to us that don't necessarily speak to this particular audience. And that's okay. Because as we see with country music now, with Morgan Wallen and with Sam Hunt at one point, you can bring in 808s, you can rap, you can do all these things, and people will still buy it and love it. So why can't we do the same thing? And so this record, or these 2 songs in particular, we can argue about whether they're traditional or anything like that. But what they are is they're Beyonce country records, and they're country records that speak to her audience. And so we can't all replicate Beyonce, because we're not all Beyonce. But if somebody's really smart and they're sitting and watching this, there is a marketing lesson in this. I don't know how this moment is going to translate for everybody, for all the other Black artists that are out, that have been in country music. But I will say that there is a blueprint in there somewhere for the future girls. And I hope that everybody's watching.
I hope so. I think it's actually harder. Some of the artists you mentioned that could do, there's all that other music infused in country, but not for some reason, there's different standard for women. I'm not even saying Black, for women. That's not acceptable. I don't know why. And maybe we just go, it's not, when we say acceptable, is it just country radio that we talk about? And I'm glad to say that, because so many artists, and especially of color, are going, I want to fit into country music. It's don't try to do that. be you. I mean, I had this conversation with Brittany Spencer. It's like, don't, and, even Warren Treaty now. Don't try to fit in that box because it's such a limiting box.
It's a limiting box.
Not even that, sometimes creative and musical. Do your thing. Let's bring, people, because, you have to do your thing and be authentic to yourself. That's where we'll win. And Beyonce is Beyonce. I mean, she got, I don't remember when she was on the CMA Awards how many years ago with the Dixie Chicks. I mean, you would have thought somebody committed murder on Music Row. People were so, I mean, it was ridiculous. Remember?
It was great.
Yeah, it was great. And that song was more country than, like your dad's like than other stuff. So it's going to be really interesting I'm the same way. I'm kind of watching what's going to happen, but
Yeah, there's a lesson, and and she can get away with stuff that I say we, I mean Black women in country music, stuff that we have not ever been allowed to do.
Before we move on to the next topic, I did want to mention an interesting figure that Usher got a 550% Spotify streaming boost after the Super Bowl. So it was helpful to him for sure. But speaking of streaming, one of the big news in the month of February was, of course, Universal Music and TikTok. Tracy, you want to take that on? Help our listener understand how many people that actually affects.
You can talk about TikTok right now. I mean, it's known that that's the platform that's breaking artists more than anything. I will hands down say, our creators are not getting paid what they need to be paid from all these platforms. It's really hurting more the new artists who are getting discovered by TikTok, and that's their platform. They're not getting played on radio, but TikTok is their audience, so it's going to affect them, not so much the bigger artists. But, Universal has taken a stand, and the only time this can work is if some of the others join with them.
Tracy, do I have this right? That Warner Music Group, the head, came out and said, hey, look, we're happy with our deal, and we hope Lucian Grange gets what he wants, right? Which I think he will. I mean, I think this is a shot across the bow. I read something in the New Yorker with him saying, sort of like, not as long as it's on my watch, it's not going to happen.
They came in to renegotiate the deal, and he's like, you're not paying us enough, and drew the line. So I guess, and TikTok drew the line. So they're at a line in the sand, and I don't know. I'm not privy. I actually have to do more research. What's the difference with the Warner deal and the Universal deal? And then is Universal artists going to be, if Universal gets a better deal, that's not so good for Warner's.
Swagg, how about for you with artist development? Because I know, you've got A-list artists, you've got baby artists that you're developing, you got a lot of stuff in the pipeline. How does this affect you personally?
So I don't know. It's like, these mediums are healthy and they cannot be healthy. It depends on, how we utilize them, how the labels are looking at them. If you're only looking at analytics to invest in, artists, then are we really investing in superstars of tomorrow, or are we just investing in the hot song of the moment? So it's a catch-22 for me. It's like I'm on both sides depending on, it's one of those things, too much of anything could not be good.
Yeah, I think we're all that. It's so great in some ways because you don't need a gatekeeper. Some artists have just using that and they've broken through. But then it's scary, and what it's the same thing with AI. I know you're going to get into that later, but if it's used correctly, it's great and for the right reasons. If it's not, it's scary as what.
And how much of that deal are the artists really getting?
Yeah, no, that's what I say. To me, it's a corporate shot across the bow. It's not about the individual songwriters and artists as much, because we're still talking about unless you're a mega superstar, we're talking about just a small amount of money in comparison, but it's more about building for the future, for what that becomes.
Also is like, unless you own your own publishing, like all of this means nothing. Like if there's like the 4 or 5 hands that get paid before you do. So it's just like, this is the microcosm for politics right now, because like a lot of the things that we're fighting about in politics is, right, left, da, da, da. And it's like, they ain't talking about you. They're talking about the CEO of a Fortune 500 company who is making the decision with another Fortune 500 company and so on and so forth. The trickle down don't get to you until it is literally less than a trickle.
Yeah, if you read Lucian's letter, about his whole thing, and it's on, you can read it online. It's all about protecting our artists and making money for the artists. Like if something goes through, if I were the artist, I'd be like, all right, where did it increase for me? Exactly what you're saying, Rissi. Is like, does it trickle down? Is he, where's that split going to be? That'll be interesting too.
Someone asked me the other day, I mean, is that really? I said, well, yeah, of course, superficially. I mean, he's saying it and he means it, and there will be, some of that passed around. But ultimately, this is about IP. This is about the protection of intellectual property and about the continued health and safety of Universal Music Group around the world. That's what it's really about. And I mean, if you sign as a writer with them or an artist with them, hopefully you've had good counsel to know that this is the game that you'll be playing. I think, as we all know, having been all of us younger and so filled with aspirations, we know that sometimes the younger artists, they don't really know what game they've stepped into and what game that's really being played. Before we start to ramp down here, I'm real interested in knowing what each of you are loving right now, what you're doing, what you're passionate about, what use a moment to tell my audience a little bit about what's exciting to you and what you're working on. And Rissi, you want to start?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you. This is fun. Always like to do this with people that know what we're talking about. So it's nice.
That does help.
Because my kids don't care. So no, I'm working on my show, new season. I'm very excited about just talking to people like y'all as opposed to just artists all the time. And so it's nice to get my brain going on a regular basis and have that be my job. So another season of Color Me Country. I'm working on some other media projects behind the scenes that I'm hoping to introduce next year that deal with the subject matter, but more on a historical level. And I'm working on my own album. I haven't put out an album since 2019.
Come on, Rissi.
I'm loving music, that fearless music. I'm getting to, there's a lot of artists that are doing that. And so I'm really excited about that. And I love listening to fearless things. Like my new favorite record right now is Lizzie No, a record called Halfsies. And it is country, but she writes Rolling Stone called her like a modern day Bob Dylan. And Lizzie's just really dope. She's a dope human and she's a Black woman, and she's taken up space in very cool ways. And so I'm very excited about that stuff.
That's so encouraging. I personally, I love the idea of you doing a deeper dive into breaking down some of the historical background behind song types and behind like regional expressions of where Black music developed and all of that. I just, I'm a big history buff and I want to know something
Me too.
about everything. So thank you so much for that. And Swagg, how about you, man?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. This is really cool. What am I excited about? Well, currently we are working on her new project, so hopefully,
Love that.
no drop date, but we're working. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the course that I've written at NYU. That's as part of the songwriting curriculum on African American music. Its origins and influence on pop culture. So really diving into that and just developing that concept more in other verticals. I'm currently working on a book on that title. Hopefully it will come together really soon. I've started working on a documentary that I'm trying to pitch as well. Starting to compose for a movie project that's in the works. So yeah, those are the immediate things that I'm really excited about and working on.
And Tracy, how about you?
I'm very excited right now about Sister Strings, who I'm working with. If you don't know that, actually, on the Grammys, we're the cello and the violin player playing with Joni. Brandy Carlisle will be producing a record on them at some point, but they're just joyful human beings and they're just joyful. That's all I'm gonna say. They're and wonderful, and they are just creating. When people say what kind of music, I'm like, they're just making great music. They're influenced by everything, and I don't want boundaries. We don't have a record label intentionally. We're going to make great music and figure that out. The music is great and it's secondary to me, but they're beautiful human beings.
That's so good and so wise. I mean, to have that kind of self-care and lean into beauty and lean into goodness and lean into people who are positive and want to make the world they want to live in, And so thank you so much for participating today, for your encouragement. It's been incredible. And
Thank you, Charlie.
All of you.
Thank you, Charlie.